Here's yet another story that a lot of people seem to be confused about. And the prophet that I was talking about in previous videos also gave some incorrect information about this situation. So I just want to make sure it's clear. It has been clarified so people understand that what was said is not the truth. We're starting in Exodus chapter 4, verses 24 through 26. And I have done a side by side for clarification. Now, hopefully, people have realized by now the Bible is basically just the cliff notes of stories. And this story, especially Moses' story, is definitely a cliff note because Zipporah was not his first wife, or Zipporah was not his first wife. If you really study, you will understand Moses' whole story. And this story that they have in the Bible, it's like they skipped a whole bunch of years. Like they'll talk about him being in Egypt, and then all of a sudden he slew the man that was messing with the Israelite, and all of a sudden he's in Midian. It's a lot more in between that, but that's for another day. We're just going to discuss this situation right now. English Standard Version is a little more condensed. It's just a summary. So we're going to start there. So Moses has been told that he needs to go back to Egypt by Yah. So him, his wife, and children are at the lodging place. So it says, at a lodging place on the way, the Lord met him and sought to put him to death. Then Zipporah took a flint and cut off her son's foreskin and touched Moses' feet with it and said, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me." So he let him alone. It was then that she said, "A bridegroom of blood because of the circumcision." Now the Amplified side is wordy and explanatory. It says, "Now it happened at the lodging place that the Lord met Moses and sought to kill him, making him deathly ill because he had not circumcised one of his sons." So we don't know for sure which son, right? And the prophet said that he didn't circumcise neither one of his sons. And she said that it was Zipporah's fault that she didn't circumcise the sons. So we're going to find out the truth now, right? Okay. Number 25. Then Zipporah took a flint knife and cut off the foreskin of her son and threw it at Moses' feet and said, "Indeed, you are a husband of blood to me." So he let Moses alone, that's Yah, to recover. At that time, Zipporah said, "You are a husband of blood because of the circumcision." Now, if we scroll down to the Amplified Version footnote, it says, Exodus 4 and 25, Moses had not circumcised his son in obedience to the commandment that God had given to Abraham and his descendants. From Genesis 17 and 10, it is possible that Moses refrained from doing the procedure because his wife, Zipporah, a Midianite, had objected. So this gives reason why that the prophet would have said what she said, because she's going off of what is said in these footnotes in this regular Bible. If so, Zipporah now reluctantly performed the procedure herself as a last resort to save Moses' life, not hiding her disgust over the situation. Sister Zipporah, you are the defendant in this case. You understand right now? So it's time for you to plead your case, because these folk out here thinking it's your fault that Moses or Moshe didn't circumcise one of your sons. We don't know which son it was, so it's all kinds of assumptions going on right now. Since it says just one of the sons, the assumptions could be the first son was circumcised. It gruesomed her out so much, she didn't want the second one, and she said, "No, you can't do my second son." That's an assumption. So we don't know which one it was. We don't know anything. So we're going to have Sister Zipporah come to the stand here. Sister Zipporah. I believe that's how her name is pronounced. Let me make sure. Let me go to the Hebrew Bible here and find out. So actually, the Hebrew spelling is T like Tom, Sipporah, and it's pronounced Zipporah. 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 So Sister Zipporah, come to the stand. Sister Zipporah, come to the stand. And it's not that she did anything wrong, it's that we need clarification, and we're going to use her to get that clarification. So, Sister Zipporah, you have the floor. My story is recorded in the book of Jasher. I would like to lead you to chapter 78, starting with verse 7. And in those days, my husband Moshe, who was the son of Amram in Midian, took me, Zipporah, the daughter of Reuel the Midianite, for a wife. And I, Zipporah, walked in the ways of the daughters of Jacob. I was nothing short of righteous, just like Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah. And I, Zipporah, conceived and bare a son, and Moshe called his name Gershom, for he said, I was a stranger in a foreign land, but he didn't circumcise him because my father Reuel decided not to walk in the ways of his forefathers. His forefathers were Abraham and Midian. Midian was Abraham's son. Abraham circumcised all of his sons per the law of Yah. But my father, the Midianite, he decided not to go in the ways of Yah and do what Yah told his forefather Abraham to do. And he started serving foreign gods and not circumcising the descendants. And we became uncircumcised heathens because my father and some of his forefathers that came after Midian decided to go in a different route. But my second son that I conceived, his name was Eleazar. He was circumcised because my husband Moshe said the God of his fathers was his help and delivered him from the sword of Pharaoh. And the story continues in chapter 79 when Yah approached Moshe and told him he needed to go back to Egypt to get the children of Israel free. On the way there, if you just take a look at verse 8, is where we were going to Egypt. On our way there, we stopped in the road and stayed at an inn. Moshe was very sick at the time, and Yah came down and sought to take his life. He wished to kill him on account of our firstborn son not being circumcised, because he had transgressed the covenant which Yah had made with our forefather Abraham. Moses hearkened to the words of his father-in-law, my dad, which he had spoken to him. He was obedient to his father-in-law and not Yah. Yah was upset, and he wanted to take Moshe's life. But I, Zipporah, saw that the angel of the Lord was seeking the occasion to kill my husband, and I knew what to do. I knew it was because my son was not circumcised, so I took action. I hastened and I took that sharp flint knife. I sharpened it on, made sure it was sharp on the stones, and I cut off the foreskin of my oldest son and delivered it to my husband right at his foot. If you recall from the story in Exodus chapter 4, verses 24 and 26, it explains that I took the flint knife and I circumcised my son. I touched it to Moshe's feet with the foreskin and declared, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me." This action of circumcision appeased the Lord's wrath, and the danger to Moshe and my son was averted. The passage explained the Lord's anger, Yah's anger, and my intervention and the act of circumcision. When I took that flint knife and cut off the foreskin for my son, the act of touching Moshe's feet with the foreskin symbolized completing the covenant and restoring order. My words, "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," is acknowledgement that the blood of circumcision saved my husband Moshe and that the covenant required this sacrifice. I pray in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach that this brought clarity to everyone who may have been confused as to why our son was not circumcised. As for the other situation involving my husband Moshe and his brother Aaron and his sister Miriam, that is found in Numbers chapter 12, verses 1 through 15, I cannot clarify that for you, but the only thing that I can tell you is I am not the Cushite woman that is being referenced. I came later. This will be referenced in another video, and I hope you are clear on that situation as well. Shalom.